There is a $2 substance that can change the life of an engine more than most drivers realize. Not a miracle oil, not a flashy treatment in a branded bottle. A mineral compound that can bond to metal under heat and pressure so effectively that ordinary oil changes do not simply wash its protection away. The first time I heard that claim, I thought it sounded ridiculous. Then I found a 1997 Ford F-150 in Leadville, Colorado, still running on its original engine after nearly 500,000 miles, and I drove there to see it for myself. I had already spent most of my adult life believing that engine wear was inevitable. I had replaced 2 engines before turning 60 and accepted it as part of the cost of owning vehicles for a long time. That is what most people believe. We are taught that if an engine lasts long enough to get out of warranty, then it has done its job. After that, whatever happens is just age, maintenance, and luck. But standing in front of that truck, I started to question all of it. Because if one engine could survive that kind of mileage with far less wear than expected, then the story was not really about luck. It was about knowledge. And the knowledge behind that engine begins with a compound called molybdenum disulfide, or MOS2. What first made me stop dismissing it as internet nonsense was the science. The best synthetic motor oils most people can buy usually operate with a friction coefficient somewhere around 0.08 to 0.12 under ordinary conditions. MOS2, by comparison, can function in a range closer to 0.025 to 0.05. That is not a tiny improvement. That is a major reduction in friction, especially in the exact areas of an engine where wear matters most. And this is not based on rumor. Research in tribology has shown again and again that even a very small amount of MOS2 in a lubricant can reduce friction and cut wear in meaningful ways. That detail mattered to me because it shattered a familiar assumption. Most people think real protection has to be expensive. We are used to products that promise better mileage, better performance, or longer engine life, all wrapped in marketing language and premium pricing. But here was evidence suggesting that a tiny amount of a cheap mineral compound could do something serious inside an engine. What unsettled me even more was how unfamiliar it all felt. I have changed my own oil since I was young. I have spent extra money on premium synthetic oil, better filters, fuel cleaners, flushes, and treatments that were supposed to protect the engine. Yet in all those years, not one mechanic, not one service advisor, and not one oil technician ever told me that an inexpensive mineral might reduce wear in a substantial way. That was the moment the story stopped being about lubrication and became about silence. Because once you realize the science is real, the next question becomes impossible to ignore if this works. Why has almost nobody been talking about it? The trail behind molybdenum goes much farther back than modern engines, long before the automobile forms of this element were already influencing metallurgy. The original history stretches through older metalworking traditions and then into Europe, where the mineral was properly identified again in the 18th century. But the part that changed everything came later in a small valley in southern Norway called Knaben. In the late 19th century, farmers there found dark, greasy-looking rock in the hills. When they rubbed it between their fingers, it felt slick. It stained like a pencil and left a black residue behind. So they did what practical people have always done. They experimented with it. They crushed it and rubbed it onto the axles of wooden carts. The wheels turned more easily. The axles lasted longer. At the time, the material seemed so unimportant that it was traded locally almost like a farm commodity. It was just another useful thing from the ground. Then war changed its value overnight. When the First World War began, molybdenum suddenly became important because it could improve steel, helping create stronger, harder, more heat-resistant military equipment. A mineral that had once been treated almost like a curiosity became a strategic resource. Around the same time, large-scale extraction in Colorado, especially around the Climax mine near Leadville, transformed the American side of the story. Something that had been ignored became essential to industry war production and eventually advanced engineering. That contrast matters. A material can be enormously valuable and still remain almost invisible if society learns only one part of what it can do. And the real breakthrough in this story came when people realized molybdenum was not only useful inside metal alloys, but also between moving metal surfaces. That changed everything. In the years surrounding the Second World War, the United States military discovered that when MOS2 was suspended in oil and exposed to heat and pressure, it could form a durable bond with metal surfaces. This was not ordinary lubrication. This was tribochemical protection. Under those conditions, sulfur atoms in the compound react with the metal surface and help form an extremely thin, low-friction layer. That layer matters most precisely when ordinary liquid oil films begin to fail. That is why the military saw its value so quickly. According to the account referenced in the original source material, bonded MOS2 allowed aircraft engines to keep functioning long enough for emergency landings even after catastrophic oil loss. Think about how extraordinary that is. A pilot in combat could lose oil pressure, face mechanical disaster, and still have a chance to bring the aircraft home because the internal engine surfaces retained protection that liquid oil alone could never provide. Whether you focus on the historical account, the chemistry, or the later commercial legacy built around that claim, the core idea stays the same. This material was trusted in situations where failure meant death. And that is where the question becomes uncomfortable. If a technology was considered valuable enough for wartime aircraft, why was it never presented to ordinary drivers as a serious tool for protecting passenger vehicles? To understand why MOS2 matters, you first have to understand where normal motor oil stops being enough. In a running engine, the oil pump pushes oil through the system so that moving metal parts are separated by a thin, lubricating film. When everything is warm, steady, and lightly loaded, that film does a good job. But engines do not live in perfect conditions. There are 3 moments when that oil film becomes vulnerable. The first is the cold start. Every time you start the engine in the morning, there is a short interval before full oil pressure builds, and during that window, critical surfaces are not protected as well as they need to be. The second is heavy load. Hard acceleration, towing, climbing, and sustained stress can squeeze the oil film so thin that it can no longer fully separate the metals. The third problem is microscopic surface roughness. Even polished metal is not actually smooth. Under magnification, it looks jagged, full of tiny peaks and valleys. Those high points can punch through the oil film and make direct contact. That is the zone engineers call boundary lubrication, and it is where so much wear happens. This is exactly where MOS2 becomes valuable. Unlike oil, it is not just a liquid film waiting to be squeezed aside. It is a solid, layered crystal structure. Under heat and pressure, those microscopic plates can settle into imperfections on the metal surface and help create an ultra-low friction interface. Oil can be displaced. A bonded solid layer cannot be washed away so easily. That distinction is everything. Oil works beautifully in many situations, but it is weakest during the brief moments that often do the most long-term damage. MOS2 matters not because it replaces oil, but because it protects the engine in the exact conditions where oil alone is most likely to fail. Once you understand that engine wear stops looking like fate and starts looking like an engineering problem with a partial solution. I believed the theory enough to test it on my own vehicle. My daily driver was a 2006 Chevy Silverado with high mileage and the usual signs of age. Nothing dramatic. No catastrophic failure. Just the symptoms owners gradually accept over time: a louder cold start, a slightly rougher idle, a feeling that the engine was no longer as relaxed as it once was. So I bought a small quantity of technical-grade MOS2 powder and followed a basic treatment process. I warmed the engine to operating temperature, measured the amount appropriate for the engine size, mixed the powder into a small amount of the same oil already being used in the truck, and then added that mixture through the oil fill opening while the engine idled. After that, I let it idle for a while and then drove normally, letting real operating heat and pressure do their work. The first thing worth admitting is that I noticed nothing immediately. For several days I wondered if I had wasted my time. But after a few hundred miles, the changes became easier to notice. The engine sounded calmer at startup. The rough idle began to fade. It felt smoother, not magically transformed, but less strained. Fuel economy on the same route also improved. That got my attention. But even that was not the most important part. Lower friction means less heat. Less heat means less stress on the parts that must survive thousands of starts, loads, and temperature cycles. The real value is not one tank of fuel. It is what happens inside the engine over years. The practical appeal of MOS2 is that the treatment itself is simple. The dose depends on engine size. Smaller engines need less, larger 6-cylinder, and 8-cylinder engines need more. The general process is straightforward. Warm, the engine fully mix the measured powder into a small amount of oil. Pour it in through the oil. Fill opening while the engine idles. Let the engine continue idling, then drive normally. The following several hundred miles matter, because that is when heat and pressure help the bonding process develop on the metal surfaces. And there is one sensible caution: with very old vehicles, especially those using older seals, it makes sense to begin conservatively and watch for any seepage or leaks. What pushed this beyond a personal experiment was the fleet example from Osaka. In that case, a manager running a group of Toyota Corollas for airport transfer work had documented long-term MOS2 use across the fleet for years. One vehicle had reached exceptionally high mileage on its original engine while maintaining healthy compression and low annual engine-related maintenance cost. That matters because fleet vehicles live hard lives. They do stop-and-go work, constant repetition, and commercial mileage under real-world stress. One lucky private vehicle can be dismissed as an exception. A fleet with long-term records is much harder to dismiss. When high-mileage durability, stable compression, and low maintenance cost start appearing together, the argument for friction reduction becomes much stronger. By the end of this investigation, the story no longer felt like a niche trick for car enthusiasts. It felt like an example of how useful knowledge can remain hidden in plain sight when it does not align with the economic interests of the systems around it. MOS2 cannot be patented as a natural mineral the way a proprietary formula can. Nobody truly owns the underlying material. And when something useful cannot be tightly controlled, the next best strategy is often silence. The original story connects MOS2 not only to engines and wartime aircraft, but also to aerospace research and even lunar landing mechanisms, where solid lubrication mattered because liquid lubricants were unreliable in extreme conditions. Whether someone agrees with every rhetorical conclusion or not, the broader lesson is hard to miss. The knowledge existed, the science existed, and the applications existed long before most drivers ever heard the name. I cannot undo the money wasted on engines repairs or years of incomplete information. But I can say this clearly: engine wear is not just bad luck. It is a mechanical process, and mechanical processes can sometimes be reduced when you understand them well enough. That is why this story matters. Not because it promises magic, but because it suggests that ordinary drivers should have known far more than they were ever told.